There is a specific kind of silence in survival games. Not peaceful silence, the other kind. The kind where the music drops out, the lighting dims, and you start seeing shadows in the corner of your screen. I know that silence well. I trust that silence, weirdly enough, because I know what it means. It means check your health, check your food, check your tools, check the edges of your view for whatever is about to become your problem. That is the kind of game I usually play. I like survival games with teeth. I like when the systems are stacked against me, when I am out of food, out of stamina, carrying too much, and still somehow convinced the right answer is to save that power-up for an even worse situation. That kind of stress works for me in games. It has rules. It has patterns. If I fail, it is usually because I ignored 17 warning signs and then acted surprised when the consequences arrived. Before SolarPunk, I had been playtesting Into the Fire, the anti-farmer-friendly Chaos Cauldron. Before that, Subnautica, Against the Storm, Frostpunk, followed on Hardcore Survival Mode, and even Tavern Keeper, which I customized to punish me. Even when a game is not strictly survival, I tend to find the pressure system and start nesting there. I worked as an executive chef for years, so this might just be professional damage coping with a Steam library. I do not usually reach for cozy games. Not because I hate joy, I've heard good things, but when I look at a cozy game, some deeply annoying part of my brain immediately asks, what am I doing here? What is the goal? What am I building toward? What proves this was worth my time? And yes, I know that is a bleak way to approach a game where you can name a chicken. I'm aware and I sit with it daily. But that is the truth of it. I have a hard time playing something that does not make its purpose obvious or attach itself to some tortured hero's journey. Relaxing can feel like I am wasting something. Time, money, momentum, the chance to be getting better at some skill. So when SolarPunk launched, with over 1.2 million wish lists, I noticed it, but I was not immediately sure it was for me. The developers were very clear about what they had made. They warned people not to expect a huge, brutal survival epic. This was not supposed to be a 100-hour stress machine with a gardening tab. It was cozy. It was gentle. It was meant to be taken at its own pace. That kind of honesty is rare enough that it made me curious. Not convinced, but curious. Because if a game tells me up front that it is not going to chase me, starve me, freeze me, poison me, ambush me, or demand I become emotionally attached to a spreadsheet, then the obvious question is, will I still care? SolarPunk starts with your character waking up on a floating island with no memory, a broken sense of context, and apparently enough foresight to pack toast and a milkshake. That is not a survival loadout. That is someone whose afternoon went very sideways. Soon you find a broken airship, and the story begins to suggest that your character did not simply wander onto the island. Something happened. Gravity got involved. Gravity won, as it often does. From there, the game does not roar to life. It settles. You gather, you plant, you cook, you build. You learn how the island works. You are not immediately thrown into danger, and there is no dramatic punishment for taking 10 minutes to investigate how crunchy the grass sounds or how long it takes to drill to mine your ore. The core loop is simple. Collect resources, grow crops, unlock blueprints, build up your home, improve your airship, and explore other floating islands. If you are coming in looking for combat or heavy survival pressure, it is important for you to know that right away, SolarPunk is not secretly waiting to become that game. The controls are easy to settle into, movement felt smooth to me, building became satisfying once I understood it, and the basics are clear enough. The tutorial gives you the foundation without behaving like you've joined a corporate retreat. Some parts are less clear. I missed the contraption in the robot shop where you trade blueprints for new buildables. So there was a phase where I looked at this little metal vendor with the mutual confusion of two people trapped in a group project. Once the blueprint system clicked, it was all berry muffins from there. I also missed that the hammer is how you access house building, and you can make it right away. Which, yes, is probably a me issue, and yes, I probably should have experimented more. I am very distractible in these games, and show me a plant I have not seen before, a mysterious chicken noise, or a slightly suspicious rock formation, and my previous objective is now a historical document. But once the building system clicked, SolarPunk changed shape. At first, I treated the game like any other survival game. I looked for the ladder. Not the actual ladder, I could just build one of those. I mean the progression ladder. Better tool, better crop, better machine, better unlock, more efficient route, less wasted time. The game gave me crops that took days to grow, farm animals with needs, although, special note here, even if you forget to water or feed your animals, they will not perish, unlike yourself. Yes, animals and blueprint trades, and my brain immediately clocked in for middle management. Around the mid-game, that started to turn sour. There is a stretch where SolarPunk can become a lot of back and forth if you let it. Waiting for crops, gathering wood, trading for blueprints, realizing the thing you just unlocked requires 3 new things you didn't have yet. I had also begun what can only be described as an ecological campaign against the trees, mostly because I wanted my house to look nice, and frankly, I have no regrets. That was when the familiar mid-game irritation showed up. I know that feeling. It is the point where a game stops feeling like discovery and starts feeling like logistics. Suddenly, I'm not exploring. I'm delivering objects from one place to another, actually playing Kiki's delivery service rather than SolarPunk. So then brain started tapping on the glass again. What is the point? That question is dangerous because once I start asking, I already have one foot out the door and one eye on the next shiny new game in my Steam library. But SolarPunk did something odd there. It did not answer by giving me a monster to fight. It did not throw a new crisis at me. It did not slap a dramatic objective on the screen and say, "Here, this is why you matter." It just kept quiet, which is extremely bold for a little sky farming sim. But because the game was not rushing me, I paused and I noticed that I was the one doing the rushing. And here I need to remind you that the developers told us that this would happen. They warned that if you were a hardcore Survivor fan, please do not try. Please do not try this game and muddy our reviews with little red thumbs down. I respected that at the time, and I respect it now. And in that moment when I was starting to feel a little antsy and restless with the game, I did something I'd never done before, and I stopped. I was the one trying to make every quiet minute justify itself. I was the one treating the game like it had to keep proving its value through progress. I was the one standing on a peaceful sky island spiritually arguing with a sunflower. So I stopped. Not in a graceful, enlightened way, more in the way you stop after realizing you're being ridiculous and there are witnesses. I stopped chasing the next unlock for a while and started building. Actually building. Not a box with a bed in it, not the usual survival game rectangle of shame. A home. I made rooms I did not technically need. I organized the garden. I added little spaces because I wanted them there. I built a veranda overlooking the sky, and it had no mechanical value. No bonuses, no stat increases, no hidden advantage over the chickens. It was just somewhere nice to stand. And I made it somewhere nice to stand. I decorated it and sought out other resources that were gathering dust in my chests, and I put them to use. And a part of me deep down, the old lizard brain, found this deeply offensive. Because my first question to most games is, what is the point? Not in a grand philosophical way, in a deeply annoying consumer way. I spent money, I'm spending time, what am I getting out of this experience? Where's the progression? Where's the purpose? Where's the part where the game proves it was worth buying? SolarPunk answered with a deep breath, a hand on my shoulder, and a scenically spectacular veranda. Rude, honestly. It left me there, on my mechanically useless little balcony, with nothing to do except be present. That should not feel radical. But to me it did. I do not think I realized how much of my gaming brain is built around pressure, until SolarPunk stopped providing it. Most survival games keep you present by threatening you. You are present because hunger is ticking down. You're present because your oxygen is low. You're present because night is coming and your shelter is a tragic arrangement of sticks. You're present because if you stop paying attention, something eats you, and frankly, that does help with focus. SolarPunk asks for presence without the threat. That is harder. At least it was for me, because when nothing is chasing you, the game cannot force you to pay attention. You have to choose. You have to notice the grass crunching underfoot. You have to notice the weight of gravel when you walk. You have to notice the soft little sounds when you collect resources. The wind moving through the island, Starry cooing in her coop, like she pays rent, you have to let those things count. And that is where the game started to feel less like it was missing something and more like I was. I would slowly learn what that was through exposure therapy to peace. There is a moment I keep thinking about. I was on another island at night walking through a wide valley. The lighting was low and the landscape was strange, and the whole place had that quiet, haunted feeling games have trained me to read as a warning. My brain knew the script. This is where something happens. This is where the music shifts. This is where the game stops being scenic and starts being rude. I could feel myself scanning the edges of the screen, waiting for the threat to arrive. But nothing came. No enemy, no boss, no sudden punishment for being there, just the valley. And once I believed that, it changed. Not the game, I changed. The valley stopped feeling haunted and started feeling still. I could see it properly. The shape of the land, the sky around it, the quiet that did not need to become suspense. That was probably the most cathartic moment I had with SolarPunk. Not because the game did anything dramatic. It did almost nothing. That was the point. It gave me a place that felt like danger, then let it remain safe. And maybe that is why the game landed the way it did. For some people, peace is not automatically relaxing. Peace can feel unfinished, suspicious, like the calm that always leads to a storm. If you are used to pressure at least gives you instructions. It tells you where to look, what to fix, and what to prepare for. Peace just stands there, unhelpfully, asking you to stop. SolarPunk kept putting me in peaceful situations and refusing to make them useful in the way I expected. It did not always turn quiet into content. It did not always turn waiting into urgency. Sometimes it just gave me space and trusted me to decide what mattered inside of it. That is dangerous for someone who can turn any game into work. And I do mean any game. If there is an efficiency road, I will find it. If there is a resource system, I will overmanage it. If there is a crop timer, apparently I will begin supervising vegetables like they are my underperforming staff. SolarPunk has enough survival DNA to trigger that part of me. The blueprints, the unlocks, the resource gathering, the airship upgrades. It does not completely abandon progression. That is good, because without any structure, I probably would have floated off emotionally. One small note. If you're a bit OCD like myself, the building can become addicted. In the I have found a way to make the power lines hidden and must tear up every floor in my house again, or I just unlocked crop plots and it's time to make the mega greenhouse I've been planning. SolarPunk still shares those hooks that other survival games catch us with, but here it's driven by the purpose you give it, not the purpose the game needs from it. That said, the game is at its best when progression becomes a reason to move through the world, not the only reason to be there. That distinction matters. When I treated SolarPunk like a ladder, it creaked under the pressure I put on it. When I treated it like a place, it started to feel like a home. Before that cheesiness settles into sauce, let me be honest. This home has some fault lines in the foundation and a few leaks in the roof. Some systems need clear guidance. The islands are beautiful, but some of them do start to feel like resource zones rather than places with their own purpose. You have animal companions and a little automaton shopkeep, but no other signs of civilization. The story and lore are really what you make it, because the game just puts a hammer in your hand and says go. The mid-game grind is real if you decide to stare directly at it. And I did. I walked right into that wall, I stared right at it and rubbed the metaphorical ache from the collision. But when I stopped trying to squeeze the dopamine out of every interaction, the game became easier to enjoy. Waiting for crops was not dead time. If I stopped treating it like a failure of productivity, it became time to build, time to explore, time to fix the garden path, time to decide that my house needed a study because my sky farmer has administrative needs. That is the part I did not expect. SolarPunk did not make me present by being empty. It made me present by giving me gentle things to do with my hands. That may be the closest I can get to explaining why it worked. It did not ask me to sit still and enjoy peace on command, which is a great way to make me immediately start looking for a problem. It gave me a soft task, then another one, and then a little sound, then a view, then a chicken, then a better room, then a reason to walk outside at night. Nothing huge, nothing screaming for attention, just enough to keep me there. The gameplay and visuals do a lot of work, but I think the sound design really nails down the vibe. It is not just pleasant, it is grounding. It keeps bringing your attention back to the immediate world. Footsteps, tools, wind, animals, the small confirmation that you are here doing this, now. Thunder rumbles, lightning cracks like a soft whip. The raw elements bring up little primal energy without turning the game hostile. In a survival game, I'm usually present because I might die. In SolarPunk, I was present because Starry made a noise and I wanted to check on her. Then because a storm rolled in and I desperately wanted to build a roof over my chickens. I knew they could not be hurt by the lightning or blown off the edge, but I was invested because I chose to be. I do not know what to do with that information, but I respect it. On a practical level, I should say that I had a pretty clean experience, technically. I did not run into anything game-breaking, and the bugs I did have cleared up easily. The funniest glitch was a storm audio playing under clear skies, which made my island sound like it was being haunted by weather. Sleeping fixed it, which felt about right. Performance-wise, nothing pulled me out of the game in a major way. Most of the friction I felt came from pacing, some unclear systems, or my own need to turn a cozy sky island into a quarterly productive review. I imagine a patch will roll out soon enough to fix minor things I have not even noticed. So to the main question, did SolarPunk convert me from a chaos survival junkie to a cozy gamer? No, not completely. I'm not suddenly going to stop playing games where one bad decision can ruin an hour of planning. I know who I am. I enjoy being underprepared in hostile environments. It builds character, so I've been telling myself for years. But SolarPunk did make me reconsider what I'm asking games to do. I also keep questioning what I'm asking myself to do. I thought I needed pressure to stay engaged. Maybe I needed something closer to everyday chaos, but in an environment I controlled, where the chaos had rules, patterns, and systems. But maybe I do not need to constantly process danger into contentment. Sometimes you can choose to spend time making a garden flow. Sometimes a room does not need a purpose to exist. Sometimes a valley is allowed to be strange without becoming a threat. A veranda. The mechanically useless veranda is important, because it is the cleanest example of what SolarPunk taught me. Not every purpose needs to announce itself as progress. Not every moment needs to prove its worth through achievement. Sometimes the point is that you built a place to stand and then you stood there. Sometimes the point is hearing grass underfoot or Starry cooing in her coop, or the game not asking you to win. Sometimes it is asking whether you can stop long enough to notice that you're already there. And for a survival player like me, that is not nothing. As a recommendation, I think SolarPunk is pretty clear about who it is for. If you want to combat, danger, heavy punishment, or a massive survival sandbox with endless progression, this may feel too light, or maybe even empty. If your favorite part of a survival game is being under threat and clawing your way out with one broken tool and bad math, SolarPunk is probably not going to scratch that itch. But if you want peaceful building, farming, exploration, survival structure without the constant pressure, I think SolarPunk understands exactly what it is. It has grind, it has rough edges, some systems could be explained better. Islands could use more reasons to exist beyond resources and animals, but the atmosphere is strong. The building is more satisfying than I expected, and the game succeeds most when you stop asking it to be louder or something it's not. For cozy gamers, I think this is an easy one to look at. For hardcore survival players, I think it depends. If you are willing to unclench a little, there is something quietly valuable here. It gives you a world where nothing is coming for you. Then it asks what you want to build there. I came to SolarPunk asking what the point was. The game gave me a floating island, a few crops, chicken named Starry, and a veranda that wanted to exist. Thanks for making it to the end. If you enjoyed the video, please like, please subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.